Now,
Hello.
hello everybody. Welcome to our How to Stay Married So Far podcast. And if you're on YouTube, welcome. You can see our lovely faces.
Can I just say thank you to those of you who have left comments on the podcast app. I've read all of them, and they're so kind and constructive and supportive, and so many lovely 5-star and 4-star reviews.
We were just talking through some of them.
Yeah, really nice. So we hear you. We want. It's never that we don't want. We always want to give you sort of tip-top content. So it's like we err on the side of not doing too many of these, thinking that it needs to be really rich. But maybe you would like just more frequent, and we can talk about anything virtually, can't we?
We are a bit overwhelmed with our jobs and with our YouTube commitments, so that's why we found it so hard to be able to answer comments, but we do read them. We've just been sitting here actually for the last 20 minutes chatting through them.
Yeah.
So welcome. As I always say at the top of this podcast, we do record this from our home, so you may hear dogs, children and postmen. We apologise because we don't ever edit anything out, and that's why Mark sometimes, if you're watching on YouTube, looks a little pale because
I am pale. I look like a corpse.
Though last week it was me surprising you, last podcast, it's me surprising Mark again.
Right,
Next podcast, it's you.
Well, I was hoping to do the 3 wishes back at you.
Yeah,
that really resonated for people. I think.
Why don't we do that next week? I just thought it would be quite nice to have quite a fun one.
Oh, okay. Well, fun for you always means dangerous.
So I thought I would ask you a whole range of questions about what men really think.
Right.
And obviously I'm aware that we have about women.
Okay.
What men really think about women.
Right.
So obviously we have a broad range of people that listen to us. So I am mindful of that. And so I have looked around on the internet, and actually I found this great range of questions here from, I think it's a student forum, so that I can also ask questions from a younger POV.
Right.
Also, these questions are going to be before me. So what you thought of women before me.
Right.
Because I think people know a lot about what you think about me now, but what did you think about women when you were a young buck? Okay.
A frat boy.
Yeah. But I thought first, just to really put you
The cat
on
amongst
edge
the pigeons.
and have you sort of wobbling on one foot.
Yeah.
What did you really think of me when you first met me, before we were together? Because I know some of it will be negative, and just say it, doesn't matter. I know you love me now.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should ask that, because I think so much of what I thought of you when I first met you was enshrined in where I was at. You see, the weird thing about asking what do men think? Or what do men want? What do men think?
Are you already stalling?
I'm already shitting.
Did you think I was fat when you first met me?
Oh, Christ, no.
You looked away from me.
No, I didn't look.
Oh, you did.
I've been looking away all the time. I'm frightened. I didn't think you were fat.
Well, because all the
I didn't think in those terms.
But all the girls I'd seen you been with before were very, very skinny, so I must have been fat in comparison. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but I didn't think like that. I genuinely didn't think like that. Honestly, I didn't think like that.
So what did you think?
Well, I remember...
My God, if you're listening on podcast, you should see him. His eyes are going everywhere.
Okay, and it was a problem actually for the beginning of our relationship. I think I genuinely thought you were a flibbity-gibbet. I thought you were clearly a sort of a hippie, chatty, heavily drinking, flirtatious. I thought you probably slept with every director you worked with. I thought you probably had flings left, right and centre. I thought you were one-night stand city, because that's kind of what happened between us. So I thought, this is just part of... And for me, that was fine at that point, because...
I only asked if you thought I was fat.
That was fine, because at that point, that's what I was, a tart. And I thought, well, she's a tart. She wouldn't do that on a first night if she's not a tart.
Well, I didn't do anything on the first night.
No, not on the first night. But, we met and worked together.
Night together, but we didn't do anything.
Well, no. We ate sandwiches and smoked tabs.
Okay, well, that's all really interesting, because I need to go back to that, because I want to go in detail. But first of all, I want to answer the question, did you think I was fat?
I didn't think you were fat, but I...
Can you look at me in my face when you're answering this question?
I didn't think you were fat. You weren't fat.
I was.
You weren't skinny. Well, I can't say you were skinny, but I didn't
you'd
see.
always gone for skinny girls, so it was really
But you were
weird.
effervescent. Yeah, but but you see, this is the mistake women make, and I think they think, oh, that's his. I mean, I hear women talking about that. What's your type? You talk about it with the girls. He's not really your type, is he? I mean, I didn't have a type. I mean,
No, I didn't have
I mean,
a
I
type
genuinely didn't have a type. I mean, your boyfriend before me was like the Italian stallion. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, you know, this idea of types was just not real. It didn't. That wasn't even in me. I wasn't thinking, oh, she doesn't look like her, and she doesn't look like. Oh, right, okay, and it doesn't.
No, but
look...
when you've got a theme of very skinny girls, which is what you had, I mean, crackingly bone, crunchingly skinny.
Yeah, but with all due respect, I'd had a number of short-term relationships with girls who weren't. You only know 2 fully, well 3, but all the others, and there were many, weren't. You know, they. I mean, it sounds like I'm talking about produce. They came in all shapes and sizes.
Did you? So you didn't think I was fat?
No, but I knew you weren't skinny.
I just want to keep asking this question because
I didn't.
It's so funny the way you go like this with your head.
Ask me again, and I'll just look at you.
Did you think I was fat?
No, I didn't. I thought you were skinny. I didn't think you were skinny. I didn't think you were skinny. I knew you weren't skinny, but
I didn't ask if you thought.
But I wasn't looking at. Well, I mean, the point being, it was one of the first things I did with you when we first met was I filmed a piece to camera with you, which is when she presents to camera. And the first shot I did was pulling out of your tummy. And the first thing, because you had a coat on, and it was like the idea was there'd be a dissolve for filmmakers, and the camera would pull out. And as it pulled out, and I remember, I'll never forget, I remember doing that shot, and it was quite a personal shot because I just said, oh, I'm going to do this thing where I pull the camera out of your stomach. And if you think, on an almost metaphorical level, it's deeply.
It was very rude.
It was, yeah, but I wasn't breaking. I wasn't. It wasn't a sort of Me Too moment.
Oh God, no.
No. But I was doing it as a white. But anyway, as I did it, I remember you looking down and you going, "Are you all right down there?" And I remember thinking, "This is strange," and that was very flirtatious.
Did I say it in a flirtatious way?
Of course you did. We were standing in the middle of a shopping centre and you had an umbrella which you were swinging, and then I sort of pulled out from your tummy, and then I revealed you in your. Do you remember that puffer blue coat? It was a turquoise puffer blue.
Love that.
And I remember thinking, oh, there's a bit more cushion there to pull the camera out from.
On my coat?
If you're on from your tummy.
Belly.
Because I remember you saying something like, oh, there's plenty there for you to work
we
with.
used to skinny bitch girls.
Well, not entirely. I wasn't entirely. But at that point, I didn't think, oh, gosh, she's got quite a bit there to work with.
Okay. All right, well, that went on for a bit longer than I thought.
My heart rate is through the roof.
I'm going to let you off.
But I thought you were, and I didn't think you were a sort of, I thought you were a loose woman. I thought she must do this with everyone.
I'm going to go back to that, don't worry.
I thought she must do this with everyone. I mean, I think that's a problem for many relationships. It's a problem for a lot of men, is that the very thing that, maybe it's a problem for women, I don't know. But the conditions in which you meet in a relationship can, I think, inscribe a real problem. It was interesting, on our Showbiz News last night, I didn't know, and no one's told me this, that all this fuss and nonsense about, and I'm not suggesting it's like karma or anything, but the thing about Khloe Kardashian and Tristan, apparently when she met him, he was with someone else who was pregnant, so she was the other woman.
She's always said they were already split up, though.
Well, yeah, but, you know, that sort of dubiousness and ambiguity and what have you. I think everyone gets together in a relationship under dubious situations. There's often sort of crossover between relationships. There's often a sense that someone feels more that they're being betrayed by someone in a, you know, and it's not that anyone's necessarily doing anything wrong, but it's that sort of tectonic plate move, isn't it, in shifting. But at that point, it didn't bother me at that point because I thought, this ain't going to last. That was my genuine thought. I thought, this is a fling. This is just going to be like every other fling that I've had for the last however many years.
That's what you thought?
That's what I thought. And I thought, right, she'll move on to the director of something else or the whoever of something else.
Okay, well, I want to go back to that because I think that's a really important. Okay, so, well, let's not go back to it. Let's stay with it. Let's take me out of the equation.
Right.
Excuse me, I've just got a cough.
Literally, I'm feeling coronary.
There we have
furring of the arteries, I'm feeling.
There we have male privilege in all its finest
male
glory,
privilege.
don't we? Yeah, that the men have a privilege of behaving however they want.
Oh, absolutely.
And not being seen as a slapper, as a slut, as a this, as a that.
Well, I didn't think I was great.
No, but I believe however lovely a man is, they have the power with that.
Right.
So what does a man, not thinking about me, really think when you were a young man and you were out on a date of a girl that sleeps with them on the first night? Oh Oh my God, we're going to need an hour for this podcast just for your puffs.
Well, no, I need to. Yes, if someone wants to do someone wants to do a comedy edit of all of my staggering pauses, post it, and I'll like it and share it. Okay, there's so many layers to this that are so complicated in my attitude to women.
Let me just help you then. Just take a breath, right?
Why are you doing this?
And don't think in a PC
I'm
way.
not.
What we don't
I'm
want
getting myself
is
back.
political correctness.
But that's what
we want the truth.
I am going through regression therapy here to
Okay.
get back to a point. But the point I'm trying to make is, when I was spat out into the world, and you can say that going to college was the moment I was spat out into the world, I would say, and I mentioned this the other day to you, I would say that I had a very respectful, and I'm not going to say that I lost respect, but I had a very respectful and conservative. I've been brought up by a feminist lesbian, you know.
Yeah.
So my attitude to women could have been very confused and full of resentment, but it wasn't. I fundamentally understood they were my equal, and they weren't. It wasn't. You know, I wasn't coming into it like that.
Yeah.
So I have to park that there. But then what did happen is at the point that, say, a fundamental relationship hit the skids, a major shift happened, and I would say I probably became more conventional in my attitude to women.
What?
So I don't think I'm a classic case of what I ever thought of women is what all men thought of women, but I do think I got to a point where so what was the question? If a woman was what?
Yeah, what do men really think about women when they sleep with them on the first date? A very old-fashioned question.
Well, I think I would have got to a point. There you go. Edit those in. I'm just trying to think. I would have got to a point where I think that's great. That's brilliant. I'm not thinking of her. That's great for me. Because there's no strings attached.
Oh, so that's interesting. So if they sleep with you on the first date, there's there's no strings attached, because then they're not going to be a girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. And so in that sense, there is an element of
absolutely as clear as that.
Yeah, the rules. Well, it kind of almost happened with us. So the rules can be bent and broken around that. You know, you do. But I'd got to a point where I thought, yeah, I suppose I agree. If I knew I was meeting a girl for the first time and it didn't end up in any way sexual,
that's our sound when we're talking because of the children. And they were like, we know what you're saying.
Then the assumption would have been, here's another way of looking at it through the opposite end of the glass. If I went on a date with someone, and I remember, casting my mind back, I can remember quite a few, and that first night didn't lead to something happening, something in my head would flag up and go, oh, this could be a bit more meaningful.
Wow. God, men really are so shallow, aren't they?
This could be something more meaningful, followed by, don't want that.
Off.
Wow.
Okay.
So looking at it back through the other end of the glass that you invited me to look at it, if I knew a woman was willing to sleep, so say that date did end in intimacy, that would be great. But I was the kind of guy who would have to get out of that intimate engagement pretty quickly. Like, it could carry on like that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But the danger for me, and I don't know if this is the danger for most men, is that nagging question of, is this what this person's like all the time? Is it worth me pursuing this in any meaningful way? Actually, if she's done this...
And where does that come from? Is that because that would have been the way that you were all the time? Or do you think it's just so ingrained in men to think that way about women?
I wouldn't think any less... it's not that you're thinking less of the woman. I mean, unfortunately...
What is it that you're thinking?
It's an emotional pragmatism for myself. It's about not being hurt, and it's also about... it's about not being hurt, and it's also about being able to meet a sort of cursory attitude to intimacy. And I think on both sides of the equation, I think you could look at the way men think of women and just say it's horrible, and it is, and it can often be misogynistic. It's like, you're a slag and you're a slut. The one thing I would never do is just because I slept with someone very quickly in a relationship or on a date, on a first date or whatever, I would never think there was something wrong with them. I would see them as almost my equal.
almost your equal.
Well, yeah, insofar as we were both. I mean, for example, I remember.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You mean
We were
in a
both. We were
sexual
both. We were
desire
both in the
sense?
same emotion. We both had the same emotional strength and autonomy to make this decision to do it and walk away from it. Just because you're a woman, I'm not looking at you and thinking you're any less of a person. Or...
So you mean that sometimes the fact that a woman could have sex on the first night is an empowered thing because she likes sex and she wants sex and she can have it.
I remember meeting.
And is that scary? Does that demasculate?
Well, this is the problem with men. This is the problem with men. I'm thinking very specifically of a woman I once had a one-night stand with who I met on the night. She was the friend of a friend of mine. We met. I remember us being in a pub and at some point a conversation happening where she whispered to someone else something which I can't share about me.
What was it?
I can't share it, it's too explicit.
What is it?
No.
Just do beep beeps.
I can't do
Beep
beep
yourself
beeps.
as you speak and then
She
we'll
said,
try and guess.
She said, well, I can't. I literally can't.
Go on, try.
No, I can't. I can't say what she said.
Well, okay, just
But
give
what
us the
she
last
said- what
word,
she's-
the first and the last word of the sentence.
Something along the lines of, I really like him that much. Something, but no one else. I'm not going to tell you the bit in the middle. Yeah, I mean, but it was one of those moments where I remember thinking, Christ.
I've got to live up to something.
Well, no. So there was a huge thrill because it was like, bloody hell, okay. Jeez, I wasn't really even aware of this.
Right.
Bam, that's coming in from the right. Whoa, right. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms. Did look at it in those terms. Did go for it, so to speak. And there was a huge thrill to it that she was as empowered and self-sustaining and kind of just don't want
Fancy
any.
a shag.
Yeah, don't want any connection. Don't want anything. No issues. No strings attached and all that kind of stuff. And what was interesting about that moment was, and it's always stuck with me, is that it really, really fucked me up for years, that, because I so liked her for that strength.
Right.
But it left me feeling, oh my God, this is how I've left people feeling. And it really left me feeling like, it made me think, oh my God, this is how I've left people feeling. Because I've just, it's just been, I've left, it was weird. It was a very confusing one. Yes,
Okay,
so complicated.
So.
It was a pub
Am
on Charlotte Street.
I right in saying then, for you, and obviously, God, you're not speaking for all men, and there's plenty of men that will never have sex.
So anything of what I've said made sense?
Yeah, kind of, but it is quite complicated. But then the human condition is complicated, so that's interesting. So
it was very complicated
on the
that
one
night.
hand, if a woman is empowered enough to want sex with you on the first night, yes, that's fun, that's exciting, that's everything. But it may make you pull away because it's intimidating because she has a certain level of power.
Absolutely.
And intimidating because you might not be enough for her, and intimidating because she might have done this with loads of other people.
Absolutely. And I had,
Well, I suppose, let me think about that. I suppose that's similar for a woman and the other way around. Okay, so what makes one woman empowered if she wants sex?
You're gonna have to let
Just
Toffee
let
out.
the dog out.
Carry on.
I'll carry on asking the question. So what makes one woman an empowered woman? No PC-ness here. I don't want any political correctness. And another woman, for want of a better word, the way that we do, a slapper, loose, whatever. What's the difference?
That's a very good question.
Because you will have thought that of someone.
But you see, as the father of daughters, I've always had the sides knocked off myself whenever. I mean, I think I can say hand on heart, having worked with loads and loads of men. I mean, I've never been one of those guys who's into strippers and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of men have an attitude to sex and women that there are certain types of women that are. I mean, I suppose I'm thinking in terms of when I see hen nights and when I see people running around. There's a snobbery in there. I think there's
Is there a difference between? Do you think men? What is the definition of the word slapper? And is it the same for both men and women?
Well, I mean, where I'm sitting at now, I think it is. I don't think there was I'm trying to think when I was
Because
back.
I think you were promiscuous.
Yeah, I was.
So I've never used the word slut or slapper or anything. I think there's different kinds of promiscuity. I think there's promiscuity because some people just love sex. And if you've got two consenting adults, I don't give a shit how many people have slept with. If it's something you love doing, then do it. But then there's another kind of promiscuity that I think often comes from a need for actual love, and I find it like when I think back to when I was young and there were those girls that were just constantly and people would be calling them this, and I would feel so sad for them because I think what you actually want more than anything is a hug. You want human contact, you want, and there's that kind of, and I think those are the kind of girls that often get labelled with that, and I find that really sad. Do you have that sense of it as men? Oh, she's the one, basically, she's vulnerable. We can, like, you know.
I think men do.
Yeah.
I don't think I've never ever in my life, and that is due to my upbringing, looked at a woman in terms of her availability as a woman.
What do you mean when you say that?
Well, availability,
is that
because
true?
slapper. Well, no. In terms of.
Let's take the word slapper.
Well, no.
out.
Okay, no. In terms of availability, I wouldn't make a judgment on the person because I would see at the back of it that there is always a psychoanalytical and emotional and a needy kind of element to it. I think when I was much younger, I mean, there were times, I suppose, when you were in pubs and we were drinking.
Well, she's up for it.
Yeah, and she, you know, and you would, but you know, I was never the kind of bloke who actually would go and try and chat strangers up. I mean, there were a couple of occasions where I did try and chat, like someone who worked in a pub once, and that was, but I don't think I was I wasn't one of those predatory kind of guys out on the pull. I wouldn't think of it like that.
No.
It would happen. But I was
So
never
you
hunting
thought,
for
right,
it.
I'm going to go out and I'm going to find somebody.
No, and it wasn't like if we went to a club, for example, if part of the night was ending up in a club or there would be a dancing or music or whatever moment to it, it would never be. Members of my group would be like, "Let's go there. You never know, we might meet someone." I genuinely wasn't going there thinking in those terms because usually I'd have either found someone would be with me or there'd be someone in our group, a woman or someone that there was a bit of a thing kind of going with anyway. So I was always drawn to women in a way that were themselves having quite a sort of blokish attitude to the cursoriness of intimacy, because that meant I could protect myself. They were kind of protected. You know, I can think of numerous women that I had good friendships with, matey friendships with, who happened to be more than that. And I never thought of them in those terms because I wouldn't have had the friendship with them if I had. Do you know what I mean? They weren't sort of someone you just meet on a night. I mean, that night that I was just talking about a minute ago, a couple of times I can remember where I did meet someone. I mean, I remember doing the classic of meeting someone on a flight and something happening with them, and that never happened again. And it was just like, bloody hell, you know. So, but I don't remember having a negative thought about the woman. I think I always had.
You don't have to apologise.
Well, no, I'm not apologising for it. But I'm thinking about a lot of men.
What about other men?
No, but let me suggest this. I think a lot of other men do put that notice on people or that definition on women. But if I think about it in a very sort of if I look at the sort of bad behaviour of men and their attitudes to women, I think it's based on fear. I think it's based on fear and crushingly low self-esteem. I mean, it's again, you know, I can't see.
For some, and for others, it's arrogant. And
Absolutely.
It's like
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Not all of them.
Whatever they want.
Yeah.
Okay, so a bit more of.
Has any of that made any sense?
Yeah. So I want to just do a quick sort of silly, questions like quick fire.
Oh right. Okay.
So, what's the worst mistake a girl can make on a date?
Oh my God. The worst mistake a girl can make on a date.
Where you go, oh God.
Express far too much interest in whatever your passion is.
Oh God, that's interesting.
If they over try, it's like, oh.
Pretend that they love.
Pretend they love. I can't bear it. Don't pretend.
Okay.
Don't pretend. But that's me. If you don't, say you don't, and we'll josh and have a laugh about it. I mean, that would be my way.
What do men really think about lipstick?
Hate it. I hate it. Hate it. Makes me think of prostitutes.
Of what?
Prostitutes. When you you're reading books,
my God.
I think any red lipstick looks hideous. I don't think it means ergo you're a slapper or a tart.
No.
But I think
triggers
as
that.
a father of 4 daughters, and red. If I was to say something I'd put into a room 101, it would be red lipstick. It is like, why would you want to use something that's been defined by men to say, I'm a bit of this and I'm a bit of that. Why would you use that? That war paint.
Wow.
Why would you use that war paint in such a conventional way? I see it as women throwing their strength in the bin.
Good God, how fascinating.
I don't know if that's because I'm a son of a feminist or whatever. That said, I love high heels to wear them.
So what do men really think about makeup? Because we always hear men will say, oh, I like the natural look, I like the natural look. What do you think? Not just you, think about friends.
I think makeup means that you're the woman in question. The reason I associate it with things like prostitution or what have you is women are having to put this stuff on to go into the world and feel empowered and sexual and whatever. I see it all as having a sexual flavour to it, all of it. It's about looking attractive.
So if a girl turned up for a first date and she had loads of makeup on, what would you think?
I'd be like, oh God. And in fact, it's funny you should say that.
God,
I would always look at the shoes they're wearing. I would always look at the types of shoes they're wearing. And also the weird thing is something I can't...
what would you surmise from what types of shoes they were wearing?
It depends on what sort of... If they're wearing trousers, that are, you know, those kind of suit trousers. Suit trousers and high heels, I struggle with that concept.
Why? What does it say?
Because it's, again, I like, and you've talked about it, I like men who are men but aren't you know, male but can be in touch with their feminine side. And I like women who can be in touch with their male side. You don't have to adopt and adapt male clothing or the opposite, stupid female face paint.
I love how un-PC this is. Oh my God, you're going to get so much.
Am I? If I'm honest, when I see makeup
age
going
of
on...
gender fluidity, and you're saying if you wear suit trousers, I love it. So I want to know what we really think, because so much.
Yeah, but
of
I'm
the
only
world
talking
now,
about myself. I'm not
so
talking
much
about
of-
people's right to. I'm talking about
No,
what do I
know.
think on a date. I'm not saying, well, you know, get away. It's just, there are those little... If you're talking about those little red flags that flag up, that you might turn you... The amount, and an interesting one is the amount they drink and how drunk they get.
Wow, from a raging alcoholic who used to fall all the way down the stairs.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Because I know my criteria is absolutely fucked, but that's me and that's fine. And I know how out of it, if I can get this out of it, and that was kind of a worry with me and you, was how much drink does this girl need in order for this to happen between us?
Okay, moving on.
That's thrown up.
Now, before, I remember when you're, because I'm thinking of our younger listeners, when I was younger, you know, you'd meet somebody new. There we go. He's just put on a pair of heart sunglasses. If anyone is listening to the podcast,
God, that's good.
you would go. You know, you would hang. So you've met a new guy. You're in a new sexual relationship.
Me.
No, this is what I'm talking about when you're younger. It doesn't happen once you get older. Women go very strange and actually don't talk about their sex lives with each other.
I know.
But when you're younger, you talk in the greatest of detail. So everything, every single thing they did,
And you're telling me that you and your friends don't?
Let me just finish.
I'm just surprised.
Let me just finish.
Okay.
Go into because I've already said we don't. So that's parked.
Yeah.
We don't. So in the past, every little finite detail and what you felt and what it was like and what was said and everything, because you're all sort of, I suppose a lot of that, and I think this is where women are so much luckier than men, you are all learning from each other and you're actually getting rid of a lot of your insecurities because you're talking about, oh God, yeah, I know, oh, that must have been awful. So how do men talk about it? How did men, when you were younger, if you'd had sex with somebody, whispering to the kids, would you have just said, would it just be, did you? Yeah? I mean, I imagine that's what it would be more like with men, or would you go into the detail?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of a time I lived with a male friend for 2 or 3 years, and I mean, it did make men behaving badly look pretty tame. Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest...
Why are you not looking at me?
No, because I'm remembering. I'm remembering.
Darling.
No, for God's sake, I can't just...
I know, but it's really funny. Every time I ask a question you don't really want to answer, you just go
No,
like
it's not
that.
true. I'm thinking. Yeah, I suppose we would, in the morning or the day after, I'd get a text and he'd be like, were you with that girl last night? And I'd go, yeah. But he wouldn't ask. No one ever would ask, what was it like? What did you get up to? Not at all.
Isn't that interesting?
What he would say was, I heard you.
Because when I was looking around on the
You're like,
internet,
right.
I was looking around on the internet, sort of researching what I might ask you, and time again, that's what men say. They don't actually talk about the detail.
No, we don't. We don't. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a conversation about what.
What happened between
What? No,
you?
well, this probably goes to the heart of it. What would be said amongst women, and this is a shocker,
Amongst women?
Sorry, amongst men,
Yeah.
would be, does she? I mean, for some reason,
You
no,
are kidding.
For some
oh my
reason-
God, I'm so shocked. I need a moment. That's the only question that men ask.
no, it's not the only one. But for example, that sort of question, and it could be, did she? Well, no.
And we never edit the podcast.
Now, hang on. I'm not going to go into any more detail. But questions like that.
Right, what do you mean question? What are the questions?
No. Those are
like
the two. There will be a very brutal sort of, does she cross that line or that line? And if she does, no judgment would be made. They'll be like, oh, right.
Okay, right, pause. Why are they asking that?
Because I think, well, is that honest? Have I ever asked it? I probably did ask it of friends in a joshy, drinky way.
But why?
What? No way. First date. What?
First date?
What? First date and she, what?
So they will go to the most extreme thing that's happened in a competitive way and just say that. So she swung from
It's
the
like
chandeliers,
scoring a goal.
or she
It's
did
like
this.
scoring a goal.
So scoring a
It's a
goal
sporting
would be,
analogy.
what's the most extreme thing that a woman could allow you to do or want to do?
Yeah, but there'll be
on that first
without going
date?
into the graphic detail, there'll be those criteria. I think I've revealed one or two of them. So there'll be, oh, she did, oh, right. Oh, okay.
So they just go straight to the nub of what's
And
the
then
most...
move on.
Yeah, okay, so that's quite interesting, isn't it? It's because we're talking about there is competitiveness.
And it shields all men from any
Shields the
emotional
emotion.
contingent.
Yeah.
And it allows you to have the most simplistic of yardsticks. Because what then happens, I mean, I'm thinking there's a pub in Soho called the Nellie Dean, and I mean, go upstairs at the Nellie Dean, if there's a pool table there, you can see in virtual reality my entire sort of bachelor years happened up there. There'll be many times where you'd sit down and a conversation would happen, you'd be like, oh, right, okay, and someone else in the group would go, and someone would say, well, yeah, she did, she was willing to, and be like, oh, right, okay, so you'll go on the pool table, and you play pool.
And did everybody believe everybody? Or you all
Yeah.
No.
And then, more often than not, what would happen is she'd walk in.
Oh,
The person would walk in. And at that point, I would feel there would be an element of, oh, I wish I kind of didn't know what I know.
Yeah.
But then the looks between the men, it's horrible. It's like, there's all that sort of stuff going on.
This is so shocking.
I'm just trying to give you a little insight into... But
I don't know if I want the insight.
it's almost on the most functional of levels. And even those questions
it's
can be
interesting
asked of
because I
someone
know
even when
those
you're in a
group of-
relationship with them.
It's so interesting because I know that group of friends that you're talking about, and it's your ex-friends of when you were drinking. And you wouldn't necessarily think they were the sort of blokes that would have talked about that. I'd be just fascinated to know, is that what...
No, and also out of respect to them as well, they were, I would say they all had a very. I didn't feel any of them were fundamentally disrespectful to any of the women they were with. It was all very equal,
bravado.
and that bravado there was as much bravado you could see and feel it going on in the girl camp.
Yeah, girls can be
yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
unbelievable when they're talking about men.
Have you seen the size of his foreskin?
Yeah,
I remember one girl
God,
saying
yeah,
to us, it was,
they can be brutal. But I think what's interesting there, the difference between men and women is that women want to go into the finite detail and discuss it all, and men want to get to the finish line. What's the most competitive thing? What's the thing that he got to do or she that I haven't?
in summer, I feel that we could do an entire other podcast on this, but in summer, I would say, and this is something I remember talking about with a colleague of mine a few years ago, as the ages of my daughters reached 14, 15 and 16, there is a concomitant shift in not my attitude to women, but there are certain absolute taboos in my thinking around women grew as, say, my eldest daughter Izzy became a young woman. And so for me, there was always been that continue. I've never been one of those blokes who's drawn to younger women, or, lots of men lots of men talk about that a lot, about the youth and the nubility of a woman and all that kind of stuff. That side of it's interesting. For me, I've interrogated infinitely more as a grown, I would like to describe myself as a grown feminist man. I've got more in touch with everything that was sown by my mother at a young age, though
As you've got older.
it wasn't a coherent advocacy of feminism as a kid. My childhood was very contradictory in many, many ways, but I picked up the snippets of feminist thought. And I could have gone one or two ways with that. Now, if I was to write my memoir, I have huge reservoirs of guilt around the way in which I've conducted myself in relationships and flings and what have you. And I struggle with that when I'm talking about this. The reason I look away is I struggle with it because I feel shame about it, because I feel like I sort of turned my back on the principles that I didn't even have consciousness about. But I realised those principles went to the wall, and I think this happens to a lot of men when they have fundamentally don't respect themselves. And I see in a lot of men their attitudes to women as more a reflection of their attitudes to themselves. But likewise for women with men. So I think it gets to a point of what am I willing to take, what am I willing to tolerate, what am I willing to, and that seeps into bad promiscuity and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm a parent, my attitude, it's good because I do try and access where I was in those moments. Sometimes I'll say to the girls, this is what men, not literally, this is what men will be thinking, but watch out, however good a man is, because they would look at me and say, Dad's a good man. I've had these terrible thoughts, but I've made these snap judgments and snap assessments of people.
I think that's what must be so hard for men when they have daughters.
Yeah.
And they've been wild and they've been this and they've been that, and then they look at those girls, look at their girls and think, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we didn't really get to do a quick fire. We didn't really get to ask more than 3 questions.
Should we do more of this? I feel like we've only just scratched the top of the surface.
Yes.
But again, shouldn't I be asking you the same thing about men? Well, I think we could do the obverse of both of the last 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the next 2.
We need to go back at this. And actually, why don't you leave questions? Next time what I'm going to do is only ask the questions that our listeners have asked. So we're going to collate questions
from this one.
From the podcast and the YouTube. And then I'm just going to ask you questions that people have asked. If you don't want your name shouted out, don't put it. Just put anon.
Or just say, don't name me.
Or just put anon, and then I'll know to say anon. Right. But if you don't mind your name being shouted out, that's fine. And that's what I'm going to do. And then if there's any men that want questions asked, the same, and then you can...
Come on, there must be a couple of chaps out there. Back me up, guys. But the thing is...
Make your fellas listen to this.
Yeah.
Men need to listen to these podcasts.
But listen, do leave your comments to this podcast, because it's such an enormous task to go looking back.
Yeah, please, if you want to ask a question,
put them in this podcast
men.
and the next podcast we do. And also on the podcast app on iTunes, leave comments there too.
Thank you so much, everybody.
I feel like anything I've said has made any sense. I feel
it was very difficult.
I feel like I was a fleeing animal for half of that. I was like, shit, what have I done?
I think we're going to have to beep out what that was that you said.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
All right, so please subscribe to the channel, please like the podcast, and please hit the notification bell on the YouTube, if you're on YouTube, so that you can always be alerted. We did a great live the other day, and so many people didn't know it was on because they hadn't hit the notification bell. So have a fabulous day. Thank you for listening.
Bye.